how's it going, everyone? It is Skullzi here with the latest and the greatest gaming news. Today I wanted to talk about the truth behind a recent discussion that is going around involving Bethesda Game Studios, ZeniMax, and an evil shadow investment company that are supposedly the masterminds behind all of the unfavorable decisions that Bethesda have been making lately involving monetization and non-consumer friendly practices. A lot of people are claiming that this company is actually ruining Bethesda as a whole, and there are plenty of videos quick to jump into that anti-Bethesda agenda while using this situation as a catalyst. However, after about an hour or two of research and with a basic understanding of how the business and investment sector works, I was able to disprove most if not all of these theories surrounding Providence Equity. Now, in case you're not familiar with the situation, don't worry, as I'll give you a brief summary real quick before getting to why I think these theories based off this information are garbage. So there is a bit of controversy to this situation even from the very beginning, but it all starts with the discovery made earlier in this year by an actual friend of mine, Lost Prophet. He makes content over on Twitch and YouTube, be sure to check him out, but basically he was scouring the Bethesda wiki one day and read the fine print that most of us have for some reason ignored until now. And he discovered that a major investment company known as Providence Equity actually owns about a 25% stake in ZeniMax's shares. And like I said, there is some controversy from the very start surrounding this, because even though some large YouTube channels reported on this and properly credited Lost Prophet for the discovery, there are still some other channels that fail to credit Lost Prophet as being the original source of this discovery for some reason. Which is pretty lazy and pathetic, as having integrity in any type of journalistic setting, even if it is related to the gaming industry, is extremely important, as it is a direct showcase to the community as what your values are and what your work ethic really are. If you fail to properly credit someone as the original source of a discovery, then that makes the community wonder how much thought you actually give to your content. But to move on from this little bit of drama though, between 2007 and 2010, Providence Equity gained about 25% of ZeniMax's stocks, handing over $450 million to ZeniMax and in turn Bethesda Softworks. Bethesda used this money to invest in their own internal projects, most notably Skyrim at the time, and this investment also led to the major period of expansion that we saw for Bethesda after that period of time, leading to new Bethesda studios or offices being opened in Tokyo, Frankfurt, Paris, Eindhoven, Hong Kong, Sydney, and eventually Moscow. And this is where these theories start to take form. After this discovery, many in the community started to blame Providence as being the source of all of these crappy microtransactions and anti-consumer practices that Bethesda have been making lately. Some think that Providence has enough equity in ZeniMax to be able to force Bethesda to basically start turning into EA, as that is more profitable and Providence only cares about a return on their investment. And while at first glance this seems like it might be a valid theory, especially if you're looking at the situation through the filter of a negative Bethesda-based outlook already, however, it is rather silly how quickly you can disprove this theory, as there is evidence literally even in the very same paragraph on Wikipedia that talks about Providence that basically immediately contradicts any of these theories. But I also did a little bit more research to find even more evidence to support this, but let's go ahead and start right at the source of all this, the Bethesda Softworks Wikipedia page. In the very paragraph that cites Providence Equity as having around a 25% stake in ZeniMax stocks, it literally states that around the same time Providence acquired this equity, Chris Weaver, the original founder of Bethesda Softworks, who is no longer directly associated with Bethesda at the time other than owning these stocks, actually owned about 33% of ZeniMax shares, considerably more than Providence did, so if any shareholder was going to force Bethesda to do anything, it would be the one with the most shares, which clearly Providence was not. And on top of all this, let's look at the actual numbers, which is what investments are all about anyway, as that is what Providence literally is, an investment company. They want to make a specified return on their given investments. They aren't controlling multiple corporations, they're simply overseeing their investments in order to make a decent profit. That's what these companies do. They're not like some kind of let's take over all corporations forever and run them into the ground or turn them into money machines. They might like to do that, but in reality they don't. So between 2007 and 2010, Providence gave ZeniMax and thus Bethesda about $450 million, getting them about 25% of ZeniMax stocks, as I said earlier. But keep in mind, we have no idea what actual agreements or oversights ZeniMax and Providence made behind the scenes about this investment, as there are usually more decisions and discussions made surrounding major investments like these. It's never simply, here is $450 million, 25% of stocks please. At the very least, there are some negotiations about the investment itself, if not actual expectations of return and things like that. And while still focusing on the numbers, despite all all of the crap Bethesda has been getting lately, Bethesda Game Studios alone has more than tripled the value of that investment since 2011, only 1 year after Providence and their initial $450 million investment. And on top of all this, Skyrim alone grossed about $1.5 billion just for Skyrim. Bethesda is proven to be very profitable, and just one project from just one studio within the entire ZeniMax umbrella, more than tripling the value of the initial Providence investment, is a huge indicator that those theories are wrong. With all this in mind, it seems almost ridiculous to think that Providence could somehow have any direct control over ZeniMax or Bethesda at this point, enough to force Bethesda to make decisions that are potentially running the company into the ground. And all this is just based upon Bethesda's profits alone. When you also take into consideration the fact that Providence isn't the majority shareholder or even the second majority shareholder of ZeniMax, it becomes pretty clear that any theory involving Providence equity as being the evil corporate money-focused masterminds behind all the crappy decisions Bethesda has been making lately are clearly not true. But if it isn't Providence, then who is it? The answer is most likely a lot more simple than we might originally think. It is much more likely that there are some greedy, overzealous executives within ZeniMax or Bethesda itself pushing for the over-monetization, leading to all of the issues that we have been seeing from Bethesda lately. Decisions like the Fallout First subscription model and all the lies that came along with it involving private servers, decisions like forcing Fallout 76 to be released before it was clearly ready, decisions involving microtransactions and paid mods via the Creation Club, and all the other issues we have seen from Bethesda over the past few years. It makes far more sense that Bethesda executives, who are part of a very profitable company, just got blinded by their own profit and success and thought that they were kind of bulletproof, thought that they were making the right decisions when they clearly should have been listening to the community instead. Bethesda executives being responsible for all of this makes much more sense and is a lot more plausible than a third-tier stock shareholder investment company as being the source of power and control over Bethesda and their decision-making. And the real answer was basically right in our faces the entire time, but most channels out there are basically blinded by Bethesda negativity right now and the profits and the views and the growth that come alongside it, and it made for a much better story in their opinion to focus on Providence equity rather than seek out the real answer, Bethesda themselves. I believe ZeniMax and Bethesda are experiencing some growing pains right now. They probably thought they could dabble in the devil's work that is microtransactions and get away unscathed, but clearly that didn't happen. Fallout 76 and everything surrounding it was very clearly an experiment, one that didn't go perfectly, and Bethesda will learn from this and apply those lessons to Starfield and The Elder Scrolls 6. To think otherwise would be blind and, dare I say, somewhat ignorant. However, the truth is only time will tell to see if Bethesda has truly learned their lesson, but to judge their entire future on one experimental game and the surrounding decisions involving that game would be silly. Almost as silly as blaming Providence equity as the source for all of Bethesda's problems. But that's it for today's video. As always, I want to know what you have to say about all of this. Just how much pull do you think Providence equity has with Bethesda and ZeniMax? Be sure to let me know down in the comments below, and if your comment wins the internet to make it featured in a future video. Be sure to like this video if you enjoy the content. It helps the channel more than you might think. And don't forget to subscribe and turn notifications on to stay in the know when it comes to the latest and the greatest gaming news. Follow me over on Twitter for the latest channel updates. Come over to the official Skullzi Discord chat server where there is always an awesome and active conversation and some speculation taking place. Check out Loot Drop over on Teespring to grab some hype Skullzi merchandise. And if you want to have your hand in providing future content, then consider subscribing to the community over on Patreon or join the channel here on YouTube as an exclusive channel member. Links for all of these awesome things are down in the description below, and as always, thank you for watching. Be sure to tune in next time when you eat a piece of cheese because you stubbed your toe.
just works.